When Europe chose politics over progress, the untold story of Romania's railway betrayal. Picture this. A nation eager to modernize its aging rail infrastructure, a competitive international tender attracting the world's best manufacturers, and a winning bid that promised cutting-edge technology at an unbeatable price. Everything seemed perfect until politics intervened. In the year 2020, Romania's government announced an ambitious procurement initiative valued at roughly $300 million. The objective was straightforward: acquire 20 state-of-the-art electric train sets designed for intercity travel, complete with comprehensive maintenance agreements spanning over a decade. It was the kind of project that could transform regional connectivity and boost economic growth across southeastern Europe. Fast forward 12 months. A partnership between a leading Chinese rail manufacturer and a Romanian firm submitted their proposal and emerged victorious from the competitive bidding process. The terms looked favorable, the technology was impressive, and the timeline seemed achievable. But then came the twist that nobody anticipated. Without warning, Romanian authorities suddenly disqualified the Chinese consortium from the competition. Their reasoning? The Chinese partner was classified as a third-country economic operator, essentially a non-European Union entity. The lucrative contract was swiftly redirected to Alstom, the French transportation giant. On paper, the transition appeared seamless. Alstom began manufacturing trains, deliveries commenced, and the project seemed to be moving along its predetermined course. But beneath the surface, a very different story was unfolding, one marked by technical failures, missed deadlines, and mounting financial losses. Today, Romania finds itself in an uncomfortable position, pursuing legal action against Alstom to recover damages exceeding €6 million. The irony is impossible to ignore. This raises two critical questions that cut to the heart of modern international commerce. What compelled Romania to abruptly sever ties with its Chinese contractor in the first place? And why is this European nation now forced to sue the very company it chose as a replacement? If you're finding this investigation valuable, I'd encourage you to subscribe to our channel. We bring you in-depth analysis on global economics, infrastructure politics, and the hidden forces shaping international relations. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss our latest content. Now let's dive deeper into this remarkable story. Music. To understand why this project matters, we need to appreciate Romania's unique role in European geography. Situated in the southeastern corner of the continent, this nation of approximately 19 million people occupies a critical position as a bridge between Eastern and Western Europe. The capital, Bucharest, has evolved into much more than just an administrative center. It's become a thriving hub where government agencies, international corporations, and cultural institutions converge. The city pulses with economic activity, and its infrastructure needs have grown exponentially in recent decades. Romania's economy rests on several foundational pillars, but one sector stands particularly prominent: textiles and apparel manufacturing. Thanks to competitive labor costs combined with a workforce known for its technical skills and craftsmanship, Romania has earned a distinctive reputation across Europe. Some call it Europe's tailoring workshop, and for good reason. Current statistics reveal that approximately 91% of Romania's garment production finds its way to markets within European Union member states. Beyond its industrial credentials, Bucharest carries significant cultural weight. The city is a living museum of industrial-age architecture, bearing the marks of various historical periods that shaped the nation. In 2024 alone, Bucharest welcomed more than 2 million visitors. Roughly 30% of these travelers came from outside Romania's borders, with Hungarian tourists representing a particularly substantial portion of international arrivals. This detail isn't merely statistical curiosity, it points to something more significant. In recent years, diplomatic and economic relations between Romania and Hungary have undergone notable improvement. Both nations have begun exploring ambitious cross-border infrastructure proposals, including plans for an electric rail corridor linking Bucharest with Budapest. Such a connection would dramatically reduce travel times between the two capitals, facilitate business exchanges, and strengthen regional economic integration. It's within this context that Romania's 2019 electric train procurement tender emerged. In November 2019, Romanian authorities formally launched their search for a supplier who could deliver 20 brand-new regional electric multiple units, accompanied by maintenance services guaranteed for 15 years. The technical specifications were demanding, the budget substantial, and the stakes high. At that moment, China represented one of Romania's most promising potential partners. Chinese rail technology had made remarkable strides in the preceding decade, evolving from basic manufacturing capabilities to genuine innovation leadership. The electric train systems Chinese engineers had developed by that point were nothing short of extraordinary. Some prototypes had demonstrated maximum operational speeds reaching 600 kilometers per hour, velocities that placed them among the fastest ground transportation systems on Earth. Moreover, these weren't simply fast trains. They incorporated autonomous operation capabilities that represented the cutting edge of rail automation. The driverless systems had achieved grade of automation 4, the highest classification recognized by international rail standards, signifying complete automation with no human intervention required during normal operations. Positioning accuracy relied on an integrated dual-system approach combining 5G wireless communication with Beidou satellite navigation, enabling precision control measured in centimeters rather than meters. All operational decisions and dispatch instructions flowed through centralized ground control facilities, where human supervisors could monitor entire networks from consolidated command centers. This represented a fundamental reimagining of how rail systems could function. By this time, Chinese electric train technology had already penetrated international markets with remarkable success. Exports had reached more than 20 countries and territories worldwide, from the Philippines in Southeast Asia to Germany in the heart of Europe. Each successful deployment strengthened China's reputation as a serious competitor in the global rail industry. Chinese manufacturers were particularly eager to expand their footprint across European markets. When news emerged that Romania had opened this significant procurement opportunity, Chinese teams immediately mobilized to prepare comprehensive technical documentation and commercial proposals. The competition was fierce. Bidders from over 100 countries submitted proposals, each hoping to secure this prestigious contract. Yet when evaluation committees completed their assessments, China emerged as the victor. The decision rested on two primary factors: technological sophistication and competitive pricing. Chinese manufacturers offered advanced capabilities at price points that rival European producers simply couldn't match. The total contract value settled at $300 million, encompassing the supply of all 20 tram units plus associated services and components. For Romania, this represented one of the largest transportation equipment acquisitions in the nation's modern history. For China, it was a golden opportunity to demonstrate its capabilities in a demanding European market. To ensure seamless integration with Romania's existing railway infrastructure and technical standards, Chinese engineers even developed a customized model specifically tailored to this project's unique requirements. Everything seemed to be proceeding according to plan. Chinese factories commenced production following the agreed timeline. Components were manufactured, systems were tested, and the first electric train unit approached completion. The debut delivery date drew near, and then, just as the first train was ready to ship, Romanian authorities delivered shocking news. The contract was terminated. The sudden reversal when politics trumped economics. So, what happened during those critical months? To understand the cancellation, we need to examine the pressure campaign that began almost immediately after China's bid was accepted. From the moment Chinese manufacturers were declared winners, competing bidders, particularly European companies, launched sustained objections. Their argument centered on a single point. China is not a European Union member state, and therefore Chinese companies should be prohibited from winning EU-related public procurement contracts. Some critics went further, characterizing the decision to award the contract to China as catastrophically misguided. Among the worst choices the Romanian government had ever made, according to certain vocal commentators. Strip away the rhetoric, and the core motivation becomes transparent. European manufacturers feared that Chinese entry into their home market would fundamentally disrupt the competitive landscape. With China's combination of technological capability and cost advantages, traditional European train builders worried about being systematically priced out of contracts they had long dominated. Eventually, sustained media pressure and political opposition reached a critical threshold. The Romanian government issued an emergency ordinance effectively canceling the Chinese contract and redirecting the award to Alstom, the French transportation conglomerate. Notably, Romanian officials never provided a detailed public explanation for reversing their procurement decision. No technical deficiencies were cited. No contractual violations were documented. The Chinese consortium was simply removed from consideration. Beyond the obvious media campaign, most analysts believe geopolitical considerations played a decisive role. The relationship between the European Union and the United States has long been characterized by close coordination, particularly on matters involving China. In recent years, numerous restrictive measures targeting Chinese companies have emerged from joint EU-US consultations. Whether in telecommunications, technology infrastructure, or transportation equipment, Western governments have increasingly moved to limit Chinese participation in strategic sectors. Romania's abrupt cancellation of China's winning bid appears consistent with this broader pattern. The European Union has expressed growing concern about Chinese influence in European infrastructure projects, viewing such involvement through a security and strategic autonomy lens rather than purely commercial terms. But here's the problem. The Chinese manufacturer had already invested substantial resources into this project. Custom designs had been completed. Technical specifications had been finalized to meet Romania's exact requirements. Production facilities had been retooled. Materials had been procured. Estimates suggest that Romania's breach of contract caused the Chinese company to absorb losses exceeding $1 million, funds spent on engineering, customization, and initial manufacturing that would never be recovered. The legal battle seeking justice in European courts. Faced with this unilateral cancellation, the Chinese company took formal legal action. They filed a complaint with European Union courts, demanding that Romania compensate them for all documented losses incurred during the train development process, plus contractual penalties as stipulated in the original agreement. However, the judicial process proved frustratingly slow. Despite repeated requests from the Chinese legal team for expedited handling, the case languished in the court system with no clear timeline for resolution. More than a year elapsed before any substantive ruling emerged. Finally, in March 2024, the EU court issued its decision, a complex judgment that satisfied no one completely. The court's ruling contained several key findings. First, judges confirmed that Romania possesses exclusive authority in matters of common commercial policy affecting its territory. However, and this was crucial, the court also determined that when the European Union itself has not enacted specific legislation governing a particular area, individual member states cannot unilaterally create rules that categorically exclude enterprises from non-EU countries from participating in domestic public procurement processes. In plain language, the emergency ordinance that Romania used to disqualify the Chinese bidder was deemed legally invalid. But the court added an important caveat. Because China has not signed a reciprocity agreement with the European Union, an arrangement that would guarantee Chinese companies equal treatment in EU markets in exchange for similar treatment of EU companies in China. Chinese enterprises cannot automatically claim equal standing within the EU's public procurement framework. The practical effect of this nuanced ruling? While Romania's disqualification procedure was ruled improper, this didn't automatically guarantee the Chinese company's right to participate in the tender. Whether they qualified remained subject to discretion by local procurement authorities. Perhaps most troubling for Chinese interests, Poland responded to this EU court ruling by proposing amendments to its own public procurement legislation. According to available information, these proposed changes would significantly restrict the ability of non-EU companies to file formal complaints after losing procurement bids. If enacted, and current indications suggest implementation could occur as early as 2025, such regulations would effectively shield Romania's contract breach from legal accountability. Chinese companies would find themselves without any viable legal avenue for seeking compensation. At that point, regardless of how strongly Chinese businesses object, they would have little choice but to accept the outcome. The legal door would be closed. The Alstom debacle, from replacement to crisis. Ironically, although Romania canceled its Chinese contract and transferred the project to Alstom, the French company's performance has proven deeply disappointing. What was supposed to be a smooth transition has instead become a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing political considerations over technical and commercial merit. In November of the previous year, the inaugural Coradia Stream electric multiple unit manufactured by Alstom was officially introduced into service on the Bucharest to Brașov railway line. It should have been a moment of celebration, proof that Romania's decision to switch contractors had been vindicated. Instead, it became an embarrassment. Just 24 hours after the train's maiden voyage, it was forced out of service due to a critical malfunction in its onboard control system. Engineers scrambled to diagnose the problem, but a quick fix proved elusive. As of this writing, the system failure has not been completely resolved. The affected train can barely complete a single round trip per day before requiring immediate return to maintenance facilities for diagnostic work and attempted repairs. Such limited operational capacity makes it virtually impossible to meet normal service requirements or justify the substantial investment Romania made. But technical malfunctions represent only part of Alstom's failure. The company has also dramatically missed contractual delivery deadlines, throwing the entire project schedule into disarray. According to the original timeline established in the contract, Romania was supposed to receive 12 complete train sets by February 2024. As that deadline passed, only 3 units had been delivered, a shortfall of 75%. After protracted negotiations, Romanian authorities reluctantly agreed to extend Alstom's final delivery deadline to the end of 2025. This represents a delay of nearly 2 years from the original schedule. The financial impact has been severe. Conservative estimates place Romania's losses from delivery delays and technical malfunctions at approximately €6 million. And that figure continues to grow with each passing month of disrupted service. These aren't abstract numbers on a balance sheet. They represent real economic damage, lost revenue from trains that aren't running, additional costs for maintaining older equipment that should have been retired, and opportunity costs from regional connections that remain inadequate. Faced with these mounting losses, Romania's state railway company has announced plans to pursue legal action against Alstom, seeking compensation for demonstrable economic damages caused by the company's contractual failures. The irony is sharp and unavoidable. Romania rejected a Chinese bid that might have delivered quality trains on schedule, chose a European alternative for political reasons, and now finds itself in court trying to recover millions in losses from that politically preferred partner. A pattern of disruption. The nuclear power story. Remarkably, the electric train cancellation wasn't Romania's first experience severing a major infrastructure partnership with China. The pattern extends back to an even larger and more consequential project: nuclear power generation. In the 1980s, Romania initiated construction of the Cernavoda nuclear power plant, an ambitious undertaking designed to reduce the nation's dependence on imported energy. By 2003, the first two reactor units had been completed and brought online. These two units have proven remarkably successful. Together, they generate sufficient electricity annually to satisfy nearly 20% of Romania's total energy demand, a substantial contribution to national power supply. Beyond electricity generation, the original 5-unit master plan included provisions for district heating services to nearby communities. However, after 2003, financial constraints and other complications forced Romanian authorities to suspend work on the remaining 3 planned reactor units. Those partially completed facilities sat dormant for years, representing both sunk costs and unrealized potential. This timing coincided with China's emergence as a global leader in nuclear power development. During that period, China accounted for approximately 1/4 of all nuclear reactor units under construction worldwide, with total industry assets exceeding $30 billion. Chinese nuclear technology had matured rapidly, and Chinese companies were actively seeking international partnerships. In 2011, Romania proactively approached Chinese nuclear firms with a proposal: help us complete the Cernavoda expansion by constructing advanced reactor units at the existing site. China responded enthusiastically, offering not just technical expertise but also financial support to address Romania's funding challenges. The arrangement appeared mutually beneficial. Romania would secure the capital necessary to move forward with construction, while China would gain a valuable entry point into the European energy market, a sector where Chinese nuclear technology had limited presence. Under the negotiated agreement, China would supply critical components, including electrical generators, steam turbines, and control systems. The total project investment was estimated at approximately $5.1 billion, a massive undertaking by any standard. Chinese manufacturers proceeded according to contract terms, steadily advancing the design and manufacturing processes. Components were engineered to Romanian specifications, supply chains were established, technical teams coordinated with Romanian counterparts. Everything moved forward in an orderly fashion. Then came 2020. Without substantial advance warning, the Romanian government announced it was canceling the cooperation agreement with China concerning reactor units 3 and 4 at Cernavoda. Shortly after this cancellation, the United States stepped in to assume China's role. American firms reached a new agreement with Romania to continue the expansion and modernization of the nuclear facility. For China, this sudden reversal rendered years of investment essentially worthless. Estimated losses exceeded $3 billion. Funds committed to engineering, component development, and preparatory work that would generate no return. The pattern is unmistakable. Significant infrastructure partnerships with China, followed by abrupt cancellations influenced by geopolitical pressures, followed by replacement by Western companies. Understanding the broader context, Europe's China dilemma. To make sense of these seemingly irrational decisions, choosing contractors who ultimately fail to deliver while rejecting technically competent alternatives, we need to examine the larger geopolitical landscape shaping European policy toward China. Over the past decade, Western governments have grown increasingly anxious about China's expanding economic influence. This concern extends across multiple sectors: telecommunications infrastructure, artificial intelligence development, renewable energy technology, transportation systems, and strategic industries. From a Western perspective, allowing Chinese companies deep access to critical infrastructure creates potential vulnerabilities. Security agencies worry about data access, technology transfer, and strategic dependencies that might limit European autonomy in future conflicts. These concerns aren't entirely without merit. Any nation must carefully consider the strategic implications of relying on foreign suppliers for essential infrastructure. Questions about data security, supply chain resilience, and long-term geopolitical alignment are legitimate policy considerations. However, the implementation of these concerns has often appeared inconsistent and commercially damaging. European nations find themselves caught between competing imperatives, the economic logic of choosing the most cost-effective and technically capable suppliers versus political pressure to limit Chinese participation regardless of commercial merit. Romania's experience illustrates the costs of prioritizing geopolitics over performance. By rejecting Chinese suppliers who met technical requirements and offered competitive pricing, Romanian authorities exposed their country to greater financial risk from contractors whose political credentials couldn't compensate for operational failures. The deeper question is whether this approach serves European interests. Are European consumers and taxpayers better served by paying premium prices for inferior outcomes, simply to exclude Chinese competitors from consideration? The price of political interference in commercial decisions. Let's consider what Romania actually gained from its decision to cancel the Chinese electric train contract. First, they received 3 partially functional trains from Alstom instead of 20 fully operational units from the Chinese manufacturer. The Alstom trains have experienced persistent technical problems, limiting their operational utility. Second, Romania accepted delivery delays that pushed completion nearly 2 years behind schedule, extending the period during which the country must rely on aging, less efficient equipment. Third, Romanian taxpayers absorbed approximately €6 million in documented financial losses, with that figure likely to increase as legal proceedings unfold and a